Whenever you guys are ready.
Hi, I'm Nikki. This is Michael, Grant, Jack, and James, and we are De-Stress. I'm a member of the high school dance team, and as a student athletes, we're held to very high academic and athletic standards. This often can cause us to be really stressed when going through our busy schedules day to day. A typical schedule for me and a lot of my teammates is that first, we'd go to school, and then after that, we'd have dance till about 6:45, and after that, we'd still have to go to studio dance till 9:30, and we don't get home till 10 to do our schoolwork and manage our social lives. This often can take a huge psychological toll on a lot of the dancers. In fact, over 50% of high school athletes' mental health is affected by school and sports-related stress. Well, the question is, how are we coping? A lot of people would say we should find a new hobby or talk to a counselor, but for a lot of us, that isn't an option. We just don't have time to do that. In fact, in every 150 students, just one student seeks help from the Student Wellness Center to talk to a counselor about school and sports-related stress. Well, if one student's getting help per day, then what are the other 149 students doing? How are those 149 students coping? The thing is, they're not. That's because they don't have the time, they're not comfortable talking to a counselor, and their problems don't feel big enough. Well, those 149 students' stress shouldn't go unnoticed. That's why we created De-Stress. De-Stress is an app that helps high school students cope and de-stress based on their personality and stress levels. So our app offers a number of things for high school students to get when they first download, is that it connects you with local resources like counseling and therapy. And then also we offer personalized solutions, so based on your user profile you create when you first download the app, our app will offer you a number of ways for you to cope and de-stress efficiently and effectively based on the kind of person you are. And then also our app allows health benefits, so it will track your stress so you can be mindful of when you're the most stressed and the most common source of it. Also, we offer an overview service for schools to buy it in bulk for each student to get for free. And then with that, schools can see student statistics, so they can see who's the most stressed and the most common source of it, so they can use that to run their day-to-day school life. And then they also can advertise school resources to students. So for example, Barrington High School could advertise their Student Wellness Center to each student as a resource for them to go to when they're stressed. And then also it identifies and flags unhealthy students. So when a student is experiencing very high levels of unhealthy stress, it will flag that student to the school so the school can take action and use that as a diagnostic tool.
So here's an example of what our app would look like. The student would open it, and then they would take a personality test. This way we can get insight into the student's mind, and we could make suggestions based on their personality. So for example, someone on the varsity basketball team, they might not have time to meditate for an hour. They might get a suggestion, maybe deep breaths, 2 to 3 minutes, something that fits in their schedule, something they can use, and something they might like to use in the future to help cope with their stress. And then next, we have what the school will be able to see. So right now on the screen is a pie chart outlining stress by grade level. So the school could get different metrics and statistics on what's stressing the students out. So they could see, why is the golf team so stressed? Why is it that the second week in October so many students are stressed? Why is it that this is stressing students out more than this? And they could use this data and they could address the students' stress and make them have a better high school experience.
We'll be targeting towards schools, teams and groups, and then we'll have personal subscriptions. A school subscription will be 99 cents per person with an overview service. Our team and group subscription will be $1.49 per person with an overview service. And a personal subscription is $2.99, and it's a one-time payment. Our total addressable market is $300 billion. We got this number from total money spent on stress, not only in school, but also in the workplace. And our serviceable addressable market is $19.45 billion. We got this from money spent on stress of the ages 15 and 19, which is our target market of high school students. For example, if we sold to BHS, BHS has 3,000 students, and 99 cents per student would make us $2,970, and that's for the school. And for a team or group, an example would be for the dance team. The dance team is 30 dancers, and $1.49 per dancer would be $44.70.
So our direct competitor is really just Calm, Aura, and Headspace. So mostly what they do is they're meditation apps that help you meditate with calming music and stuff. And what we found through trying to interview our target customer is that mostly these meditation apps don't work for them. They don't like meditating, and they don't like only having one solution what really sets us apart from these is us having a multitude of solutions versus just one solution that most of these apps have. So our indirect competitors would be counselors and therapists. So counselors and therapists are solving a much bigger problem than we would be trying to solve, like huge causes of stress or like depression or something like that. And we're just trying to solve small flare-ups of stress from school or like sports-related stress. So counselors and therapists, what we found, they take up a lot of time, and our target customer doesn't really have the time to go to a counselor or therapist like 3 times a week for an hour. They just have the time to sit down for 30 minutes and like read a book or something like that. So our marketing strategies for students would be Instagram. We have an account on Instagram right now that we're targeting high school students with. Just alone this week, we've had 667 insights on our page. So we're just trying to drive students towards our page with like de-stressing solutions. And then our marketing strategies for schools would be counselor/administrator conventions. These conventions are where the counselors and administrators get their solutions for students' problems. So when we would go to those conventions, we'd really get to the source where counselors see where they can get products that would help their students.
So the MVP. The major thing that we'd be testing with our MVP would be our solutions. Based on 30 customer interviews, 100% saying that they had the problem. In combination with our serviceable market being very large, we have an understanding that the problem is there and the market is also there. What we don't know for sure is if our solution really fits that market. So we're going to try to simulate what our solution would actually do. We don't have the funding right now, obviously, to code the app and actually make it, but what we can do is simulate what our app would do through a concierge service. So we're going to do that through a 3-step process. Another thing that we'll be testing during our MVP would be our solutions, because obviously we're not doctors, but we do have a lot of experience with stress in school and athletics. So what we're going to try to do is test our solutions to see if we have good solutions and that we can refine them going forward. So we're requesting $105 over the course of a 4-month period for an automated texting service called Textedly. So the idea with Textedly is that you can program automatic responses to keywords. So when we ask people questions, and let's say we're testing level of stress. So if we text them what's your level of stress between 1 through 3, if they were to say 3, we can send an automatic solution based on that through Textedly. So stage 1 would be the concierge service. That'd be a 2-month trial for a texting service. We're thinking about getting about 30 or 40 people through the Instagram page to at first test our concierge service. So here's just an example here of a first text, and that's also using Textedly, which is the automated texting service. Then stage 2 would be to survey. So we need to have an understanding of what solutions work, how often they use the app. That way, going into our final stage of testing, we can make adjustments and really refine our solutions. So that brings me to stage 3, which is just another 2-month period of testing. This is at the end of the year. So we're really testing our final solutions. And then we'll do a survey at the end, asking for phone numbers, names, and emails, so that we have a little bit of a start once we actually create our product. So here's just a quick timeline. Over the course of January and February, that'll be our first 2-month period of testing, like I talked about. In March, because it's a lower stress period of time with break, we will do the surveys so that way we can kind of adjust everything going into the final stage in April and May, which is another 2-month period with the new suggestions, leaving us a little bit of time at the end of the year to make our final presentation.
Thank you. Stress less with de-stress.
That's a big, hairy problem that you guys are
Yes.
taking up.
Doesn't go away.
No. And what's running through my mind is I applaud tackling such a meaty problem. That's awesome. I'm also weighing in my brain, what are you testing? Are you, and as well as the business model that you are creating? Are you testing the actual ideas to bring it down, to bring stress level down? Or are you testing the way those ideas are delivered? And are you testing both? And what that does for my brain is says, wow, you've got a lot of moving parts here, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm wondering, will you be using in your techniques to bring down the stress something that's already proven, and perhaps what you're now testing is the more convenient, modern, just-in-time way to deliver that message?
I'd say something that we're definitely testing the solutions that are given through the app, and also with that we're definitely testing like how they're given and stuff, and like if their stress level matters to what solutions are given. But I think mostly we're testing the types of solutions that are given.
Okay. Okay.
Who's your customer?
Our customer is like a typical high school student who's very tied up with extracurriculars and has a busy course load, but doesn't want to sacrifice their time to de-stress when they could just use our app.
So if that's your customer, who's paying most? Who's contributing most of your revenue?
The schools, if they were to purchase the overview service for each student to get it for free, or a student can buy it for themselves for $299.
So then your customer is really the school.
Yeah. However, our users are the students.
That's right. So if your customer is the school, how much time has been spent so far on talking with the school about about this problem and what would be a valuable solution?
We've conducted a number of interviews with a lot of counselors and like in the Student Wellness Center, for example, and I've definitely talked to like Mr. Malloy, for example, about the kinds of problems students are coming to the counselors for, and like how they typically go to handle them. And a lot of them say that like a lot of the students refrain from going to talk to a counselor in person because they're so stressed with school. And so that's why our solution is for students who don't want to sacrifice their time.
So can we chase that down a little bit more? So the counselors in the schools, do they actually have ideas, techniques, programs that they know if that message gets to a student and the student actually applies it, they've got a pretty good chance of bringing down the stress level?
Yes, so the school does have a number of ways for students to cope and de-stress.
Okay.
It's just a matter of if students want to go to a counselor to like receive those benefits.
Okay, so then as we keep sharpening this focus here, what I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm wrong, okay? What I'm hearing then is there are known solutions,
Yeah.
but the big hurdle is to get those solutions and get to the person who's having stress to actually, one, acknowledge it, and then two, start to apply some of these practices.
Yeah, like we said, like in the beginning, the big hurdle is like time, like they're not comfortable talking to somebody and their problems don't feel big enough.
Okay.
So we're trying to solve that by for example, all those students, their stress shouldn't go unnoticed because every day that they choose not to cope with
Okay,
that.
so that's what that is telling me is your test is less about the ideas to de-stress and more about the delivery, to the connection being
The
made.
major idea, like the differentiating factor for us is the whole idea of like the personality test. So I mean, there's already a lot of existing solutions for stress. I mean, there is like a ton of that you can find online or that the counselors will offer, but it's really not like personalized to you, and not everything works for every single person. So what we're trying to do is just make it a little bit more specific. So like for someone who's more extroverted, maybe we don't offer like staying at home. We'd offer maybe like go out with friends. Or if someone is more introverted, it wouldn't be like go talk to like a friend, or like go for a run. It'd be more like read a book or like try breathing exercises.
So how would you gather the information to understand what the personality type is of your customer?
Yeah, so we're kind of testing that in our MVP. Like I said, we're going to start with initial research about like understanding what solutions kind of work, and then through the first stage of our MVP, we're going to be getting a pretty diverse range of like different kinds of students and different personality types, and then we'll be surveying to see what solutions they actually enjoyed and which ones actually worked for them.
Yeah, to add on, so we've researched solutions and we've gotten some from like the Mayo Clinic and stuff. So we have solutions that work for people. We just want to see like if some solutions work for different types of people.
So are they going to be giving them a personality test for
Yeah.
them to give you data?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I love the concept of addressing mental wellness, and I applaud you guys for doing that. I get nervous a little bit about kind of maybe legal pieces of it.
Liability?
Liability, yes. So have you looked into, you know, for somebody who says, I'm just stressed, but they're not, like they need to go see a counselor,
That-
or the recommendations you give that could then lead down a different path? Like, have you thought about any of that?
That's why we don't want to advertise ourselves as a solution, but rather a diagnostic tool and like a resource for students to go to. So if the school were to purchase the overview service, the school would get alerted with the students experiencing really high levels of stress for the same source. The school could take action off that because they could see that and use that as a diagnostic tool.
Wow, I think you're running into some HIPAA issues, health privacy issues, and Mr. Attorney, you want to tackle that one?
Well, no, the first thing I wrote down was privacy, and so you got, I think, HIPAA on one level, but then also you're gonna have an issue of you're collecting personal information from your customers, and then you're retaining it, and then you're also using it for your product. And so there's a whole component, I think, associated with ensuring that you have security in place to make sure that all that information is locked up and can't be accessed or hacked. And then you have consent issues with how you're using it. And then, you know, the other component that, and I'm sorry, I just kind of put the legal hat on here, but, you know, the monitoring component, to me, I think that's a really great idea. Because I think a lot of problems that we have in society, if there can be an early intervention, and it stems, hopefully that doesn't grow into something a lot worse. But then you're also kind of, from a legal perspective, dealing with, okay, now you're taking information and then you have to give it to a school, and is the consumer going to consent to that, and is the school going to be willing to take on the liability associated with receiving that information? So
Very big, hairy.
yeah, and I don't have the answers to that. They're just kind of questions popping up in my mind.
Where I thought this was gonna go, and maybe I'm wondering if I know you've thought about it because one of you mentioned, one of the ancillary outputs of all of this is data that would be useful to school. Where I thought it was gonna go was, okay, we're gonna collect a lot of cross-section of the freshman class, and we're going to know, the school's going to be able to address hairy questions like, hey, we just changed school start times from X to Y, what impact is that having on student stress levels? Or, you know, we just compressed class time from 40 whatever minutes to 42 minutes, like what impact is that having on kids? Like, how is this progressing over time? And I think that's hugely valuable information, and might make, I'm just wondering whether any of your questions or the conversations with the school have gone in that direction.
Well, I guess in terms of like the school and how they want to like move forward with their solutions and stuff, it's a matter of like, how do I say this? I'm sorry, it was a difficult.
No,
Complicated
I think
question.
Carlos is asking a great
Yeah.
question. Have any one of you, for example, had an interview with Principal McWilliams in terms of how does the school on a regular basis measure mental well-being?
I feel like
I know they send out surveys.
They
We
do,
have to take like hour surveys
right?
very often.
And it's not a fly-by-night survey, it's from the
Yeah.
CDC.
Yeah.
And so they've been doing this since the 80s. And so they've got a whole data bank built to understand that it is not personal information. So that might be worth a conversation.
Yeah.
But then also another thing that we have to do is we want to make sure that students are like using the app. I feel like if we made it seem like it was monitored too much by the school,
Yeah.
students would be less likely to actually input information
I
and
think
use
that's a
it.
good point.
So we kind of have to find a balance between how much the school is involved with it, and I mean because if the school is constantly monitoring everything, people aren't going to be as likely to input like real feelings and real things that are bothering them.
I think I'm coming back to, you guys are
30
got
seconds.
a lot of big meaty variables that are all moving at the same time, and I think it's going to be really hard to read results because it's going to have such an domino effect on variable A, B, and C all at the same time. I happen to have some interest in one of those variables where perhaps, depending upon the way the student is feeling that day, you've got different buckets of options for them to consider that are at their fingertips. So if they self-select that I'm feeling moderately stressed today, here are 3 different techniques that you can consider for the week. Whether it's 2 minutes of meditation, not an hour, but just 2 minutes a day, deep breathing. If you're high stress, blah, 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 if you're this, go see a counselor. So I'm trying to avoid that personal information
Last
that
thing.
gets at HIPAA issues. But given the at the fingertips, I need it right here when I want it, that's one idea. Carlos offered you guys a whole nother idea, which is equally as interesting.
We have a number here?
It'd be fun giving it to them and spend some time with school administrator. You should come out of that with a list of at least 5 big problems that the school has with respect to mental wellness. And make sure that your solution, when you come back to us in 3 or 4 months, like your next idea addresses at least one of those core problems.
And probably just one of those
Yeah.
core problems rather than all,
Right.
because you don't have that much time.
So 105?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, good job, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Oh,
Oh,